The bedroom door was open. That was the first thing Sarah noticed. Her son never slept with the door open. Never. She stood in the hallway at 6 in the morning, staring at the dark opening, and felt her stomach drop. Something was wrong. She pushed the door wider. The bed was empty. The sheets were pulled back neatly, almost deliberately. The window was closed and locked from the inside. 14-year-old Marcus Coleman was gone. Sarah and Robert Coleman lived in a quiet suburb outside of Richmond, Virginia. Their son Marcus was a good kid, straight, a student, played basketball. He had friends, a normal life, no problems that they knew of. The night before had been completely ordinary. Dinner at 7. Homework. A little television. Marcus said goodnight around 10 and went upstairs to his room. That was the last time they saw him. Robert called the police at 6:15. Within an hour, 2 officers were walking through their home, asking questions. They checked the windows, the doors, the garage. Everything was locked. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle. Marcus had simply vanished from inside his own bedroom. The police asked the questions parents dread. Had Marcus seemed upset? Was he having trouble at school? Had he mentioned running away? Sarah and Robert answered no to everything. Their son was happy. He was stable. He had plans for the weekend. He was supposed to play in a basketball game on Saturday. The officers found Marcus's phone on his nightstand. His wallet was in his desk drawer. His shoes were still lined up by his closet. His jacket was hanging on the back of his chair. He had left with nothing. The first day was a blur of panic and police activity. Officers interviewed neighbors. They reviewed security camera footage from nearby homes. They brought in search dogs. The dogs picked up Marcus's scent in the backyard, but it stopped abruptly at the fence line, as if he had simply disappeared into the air. By the second day, the story had spread through the community. Volunteers organized search parties. Flyers went up on every corner. Local news stations ran segments asking for information, but no one had seen anything. No one had heard anything. Marcus Coleman had vanished without a trace. Sarah stopped sleeping. She sat in Marcus's room for hours, touching his things, trying to understand. Robert drove through the neighborhood every night, searching parking lots and empty buildings, calling Marcus's name into the darkness. Their daughter Emily, who was 16, barely spoke. She locked herself in her room, refusing to believe her little brother was really gone. The community rallied around them. Neighbors brought food they could not eat. Friends offered words of comfort that meant nothing. The basketball team held a vigil. Marcus's best friend, Tyler, broke down crying in front of the cameras, begging for his friend to come home. Then Sarah found the journal. She was searching Marcus's room for the 5th time, desperate for any clue, when she noticed a loose floorboard near his bed. She pulled it up and found a small notebook hidden underneath. Her hands shook as she opened it. The entries were dated over the past 3 months. Marcus had been writing about strange experiences. He mentioned feeling like he was being watched. He wrote about seeing the same car parked on their street at odd hours, a dark sedan with tinted windows. He described a man who seemed to follow him home from school twice in 1 week. Marcus had never told them any of this. The most disturbing entry was from 2 nights before he disappeared. Marcus wrote that he received a message on a gaming app from someone claiming to know his biological father. Marcus was adopted. Sarah and Robert had always been open about it, but Marcus had never expressed interest in finding his birth parents. Until now, the message said his biological father wanted to meet him, that he had been looking for Marcus for years, that he had information Marcus deserved to know. The sender gave him an address, a place they could meet. Marcus wrote that he was thinking about going. Sarah's hands trembled as she read the words. Her son had been struggling with something profound, something he felt he could not share with them. The entry ended with a single line that broke her heart. "Maybe this is where I really belong." Sarah called the detective immediately. Within hours, they traced the gaming account. It had been created 2 weeks earlier using a fake name and a prepaid email address. The messages had been sent from different IP addresses across 3 states, all from public Wi-Fi networks. Whoever contacted Marcus knew how to hide their identity. The detective showed them the entire message thread. The person had been careful patient. They built trust slowly over multiple conversations. They shared details about Marcus's birth that seemed accurate. They used phrases like, "I never stopped thinking about you, and I want to make up for lost time." It was manipulation at its finest, designed to prey on a teenager's deepest insecurities. The address Marcus had written down led to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Richmond. Police searched it thoroughly. They found recent tire tracks in the dirt outside. Inside, they discovered a sleeping bag, bottled water, and energy bar wrappers. Someone had been staying there. And in the corner, they found something that made Sarah's blood run cold. It was Marcus's watch, the one Robert had given him for his 13th birthday. He never took it off. The FBI joined the investigation. They analyzed everything. The messages, the warehouse, the watch. They discovered that 3 other teenage boys in Virginia had received similar messages over the past year. All 3 had been adopted. All 3 had been contacted through gaming apps. 2 of them had ignored the messages. 1 had agreed to meet, but his parents found out and stopped him. Marcus was the first to actually go. The lead investigator told Sarah and Robert the difficult truth. This was planned, targeted. Someone had researched Marcus, learned about his adoption, and used that information to lure him out of his home. The unlocked bedroom door, the careful exit through the backyard. Marcus had left willingly, believing he was going to meet his biological father. For 8 days, there was nothing. No leads, no sightings. The investigation seemed to hit a wall. Sarah barely slept. Robert stopped going to work. They existed in a nightmare, waiting for news that never came. The media coverage intensified. Marcus's face was everywhere. On television, on social media, on billboards along the highway, thousands of people shared his photo. Tips poured in from across the country, but none of them led anywhere. Each false lead felt like another small death. On the 9th day, a truck driver called the police. He had stopped at a rest area in North Carolina and saw a teenage boy who looked lost and scared. The boy was alone, wearing dirty clothes, and seemed disoriented. When the driver approached, the boy ran, but not before the driver snapped a photo. It was Marcus. Police flooded the area. They found him 3 hours later, hiding in the woods behind a gas station. Cold and terrified, but alive. He had walked nearly 40 miles. Marcus told them everything. A man had picked him up near the warehouse. The man seemed kind at first, said he was Marcus's father, showed him fake documents and photographs, but once they were driving, everything changed. The man took his watch, his phone. He drove 4 hours, talking about starting a new life together. Marcus realized something was very wrong. When they stopped for gas in North Carolina, Marcus saw his chance. He ran and kept running. The man was arrested 2 days later at a motel in South Carolina. He was not Marcus's biological father. He had a history of targeting vulnerable teenagers. The adoption story was a manipulation, carefully crafted to exploit Marcus's curiosity and trust. Marcus came home on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah held him and could not let go. Robert stood with his hand on his son's shoulder, unable to speak. Their family was together again, but nothing would ever be the same. Marcus started therapy. The nightmares were constant. The guilt of leaving, of believing a stranger, of putting his family through hell, weighed on him every day. But slowly, with time and support, he began to heal. Sarah thought about that morning often. Day opened or the empty bed. The moment her world collapsed. She thought about how close they came to losing him forever, and she thought about the other families who were not as lucky. Marcus's story became a warning. Schools started programs about online safety and manipulation tactics. Parents learned the signs. The community came together to protect their children. A year later, Marcus stood in his bedroom doorway. He looked at his mother and said something she would never forget. He said he was sorry for not trusting them enough to tell the truth. Sorry for believing a stranger over the people who loved him. And he thanked them for never giving up. Sarah hugged her son and realized something profound. The worst moment of their lives had taught them all what truly mattered. Trust, communication, love, and the strength of a family that refuses to break. Marcus closed his bedroom door that night. Sarah heard the soft click and smiled through her tears. Her son was home. He was safe, and tomorrow they would wake up together.